One of the things that I know I did as a parent and didn't think twice about it was to leave the TV on for noise, for company. Is that something that a lot of parents do still to this day? And what's the thought on that?
Yeah, surprisingly, it is still a common practice, and there's mostly with TV. Surprisingly, radio doesn't have the same effect, but TV has been found to be problematic for kids. Imagine you're a 2-year-old and you're playing games, you're playing with your blocks, and then suddenly you hear this loud noise coming from this screen in the background and distracts you from whatever you were doing, from the blocks, and then you're playing, it's disrupted. So it seems to be giving company to the kids, but at the end of the day, it's just distracting them from their real goal of them relating with the real world.
What would you suggest to parents who like having that noise on? Is there anything they can do instead?
Yeah, they can just turn it off and spend most of the time just playtime, leaving the child or play the radio even in the background. The difference with radio and TV is that the kids are not expecting to see something in the screen. If they hear a sound, they know that they don't have to look at the radio. But with the TV, they know if the sound is on or something is in there, they can watch something happening there. So that's a big difference. So I would recommend parents to reduce the amount of background noise and just turn it off. Let their kids use that time for playing. And if it is on, just to be there with the child and enjoy the time together.
When parents are selecting media for their kids, do you have any tips?
In the Common Sense report that we just developed, it's public for every parent and professional to use. They can find tips on how to choose their media. And we think of those two important rules, the 3 C's rules and the E-aims rules, and that's the shorted version of them. So the 3 C's rule implies child, content, and context. And when we're looking for media, we want to think about the individual characteristics of the child, what they like, what they don't like, their mood, their temperament, what their attention span is. Content, is it age-appropriate content? Is this something I want my child to learn? Is my child going to learn anything from this? And the context, is this app, for example, going to help me relate to my child? It's going to help my child transfer information from the 2D to the real world. Can I talk to my child about it and have this social interaction? So always think about those 3 C's. I will suggest whenever you're choosing an app, a video, any digital media. The E-aims stands for engagement. You want this educational media or digital media to be engaging. You want your child to be attracted to it and like it, but not too much that annoys it's on the way of the educational purpose. You want AI from the EMs, it stands for active interaction. You want your child not only to be physically active with the app, for example, you want them to be mentally active, to be challenged by the application and they're learning something in it. You want M to be meaningful, a meaningful engagement, and something they're learning, something that they can extrapolate from it. And if they're learning about the farm and learning about the animals, you can use that as a tool to talk about the animals you see in the neighborhood. And finally, the S stands for social, something that will encourage these social interactions, not only between you and your child, but between the child and other kids in the home or outside of the home.
When you talk about active interaction, could you give some examples?
When you're looking at an app and you see your child likes to tap something really quickly, you can see that your child is actively and physically involved with it, but it may not be challenging enough mentally. Just tapping at the animals, they're not really learning too much, but you want something that is not too hard for the kid, that they won't understand what the goal of the game is in the app, or not something too simple that is just monotonous, that it's the same thing over and over again. So you want something that will have a storyline, for example, that they can talk about. Kids have been shown to learn more when there is a story happening rather than rote rehearsal. Just If they see words in the screen multiple times, they'll be more likely to remember if there is a story behind it, instead of just repeating the words 20 times in the past 2 minutes.
How can you tell if it's too much or if it has too many bells and whistles?
At the first look, you may think, that's it, that's the perfect app, my kid's gonna be interested. But remember that you have to, your child has to be engaged to the actual purpose of the app. If the app is supposed to be educational, this overproduction of bells and sounds can be abstracting the child from the actual meaning of the app. They will be too distracted that they won't learn the final goal.
I want to talk a little bit about distractions too. We had done a story on a term called Techno Ference. Can you describe what that is and why it's not a good thing for kids?
First, I want to define Techno Ference. It's when social interactions get interfered by this technology. You may be talking to someone, and then suddenly you get a text, or your phone starts ringing, and then you look at your phone, and then come back, and you realize, wait, where was I? You're disrupted already. The quality of your conversation already went down a little bit. And so imagine a kid. It's the same. You're interacting with your child, and then suddenly you get a text. You look away, and then you come back. But for a couple of seconds, that child's like, what's happening? What's going on? And mom or dad already forgot what's happening too. For a couple of seconds, it's just this little interference that it's lowering the quality of interpersonal relations. So there was a study looking at language development, and moms were told to teach 2 words to their kids, only 2 words. During the first word, mom taught their children pretty peacefully, phone did not ring, everything was fine. For the second word, the researchers called the mom in the middle of the process of learning that word. And we found that kids, during the second word, they couldn't learn it as much as they did the first one. So technology was interfering in that language development already.
Any tips for parents?
It's hard right now in the world that we're living, surrounded by technology, to turn off your phone the entire time. I understand that, and we all do. But I would recommend to reduce the amount of time your phone is on. If you have like an hour or 2 in your home that you are actively playing with your kids, maybe silence it for a little bit, for a couple of minutes during that time will be a good idea. I'm not telling you to turn off your phone the whole day, but maybe a couple of minutes a day will be really helpful.
Is this something from birth on we really have to start looking at?
Well, in the past 10 years, imagine your childhood. You didn't really have that much technology, but in the past 10 years, these kids are growing up surrounded by it. Whether they use it or not, people around them are using it. So ignoring this population can be really harmful. We know by fact right now that our kids are involved at that young age with technology, even if they do it for a couple minutes, even if they watch mom or dad just playing with their phones or looking at the TV, they are already involved with technology, direct or indirectly. So I will definitely, that's what we're doing right now. We're looking at how technology affects this young population. And there has been studies looking at how using technology, even for reading a book, an e-book to your 2-year-old kid, to 1-year-old kid, and the bed an hour or 2 before, this blue light from the screens can affect their sleep patterns. Having no educational programming can help their sleep pattern as well. So these young kids, these baby kids can be really hurting by how we are ignoring this population.
What is your tie to the report?
Rachel Barr was actively and tremendously involved with the SENS report, and she's my PI. We've been doing research looking at their kids, young kids below 3 years, abilities to transfer knowledge from 2D to the real world and back and forth. While kids can learn from media and technology, it's so much easier for them to do if they're with someone else. If their caregiver is guiding them through the process, they're more likely to do it. And that's the research that came out from our lab.
Technology is not all bad. How can parents harness the power of technology in a way that's beneficial for kids in this age?
I would like to think of technology and media in general as if you were using a book. You don't just hand over a book to a kid and expect them to read it or learn how to read it. You are actively engaged with them. You're showing them, oh, there's a cat in the book. Look, there's a cat in the neighborhood. Look at it. It's black. It's also like in the book. So you are interacting with the book. So why not to do the same with technology? Why not to use it as a tool like we were doing it with books anyways a long time ago? So I like to think of technology and media in general as a tool that can help you strengthen the relationship between you and your child. You just need to learn how to use it, and I'm sure you can teach your kids how to use it as well.
You mentioned transferring what you're seeing on the technology to what they experience in the real world. Can you give me a couple of tips on ways parents can do that?
Previous research has found that parents or caregivers helping their kids transfer from the 2D and related to the real world helps them learn more than if they just let their kids watch the screen. So if you see, like again, coming back to the content, if this is an educational content that is relatable to the kid, if they're looking at houses or how the character lives in the jungle and they're learning about plants, you can take them to the garden nearby and show them like the leaves. And even at that young age, that will work. Using the routines time, like, oh, remember the character in your game was taking a bath. You're taking a bath too, and it has a ducky as well. Just relating those moments to your daily lives. Tiny little minutes. They don't have to do it for the entire time, but that really, really helps.